Chair Bryan, members of the Commission, my name is Sue Marshall, and joining me is Brian Wegener. We're here today representing the Tualatin River Keepers, 12360 Southwest Main Street in Tigard, Oregon. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak and holding this public hearing. We have some general principles I'd like to articulate, and then we'd like to do our own walk around the map related to natural resources.
And you have 5 minutes as a group, okay?
We'll be fast. First off, we'd like to, and it sounds as though you're in part doing this, avoid areas where there are natural areas by meandering the boundary to avoid them. These lands, although there is some development allowed, they cannot be developed to urban densities that I believe are desired. Where natural resources cannot be avoided and come into UGB, we do not believe Title III and Title 13 adequately protect water resources, and we would want the intergovernmental agreement to assure that additional protection would be provided related to hydrologic function, addressing the 4D rule, which we've included in our testimony. The protection of the National Wildlife Refuge is very important to us, and as of the latest maps that I've seen, it still does not reflect the acquisition boundary, particularly in the Tonkin geological area. We'd also like this process to be as transparent as possible, and understanding that there's multiple conflicts in so much of the area that you're considering. We'd like to see those criteria called out, how they're weighted, that inform your policy decisions. So quickly running around, there was just previously a map of the current urban growth boundary and the impervious area. Impervious area is really one of the major impacts to natural resources, as anything, its studies show anything over, very much over 10% has an impact on water quality. So starting with URB Rock Creek headwaters, this is just to illustrate that a good deal of it is the Rock Creek headwaters. There may be small portions that do not have a conflict that could come in, but by and large, it's dominant with water resources. I might just mention that the darker the shade is overlapping natural resources. UR2A and URC, the next slide. Wybo Creek has been mentioned as major tributary of McKay Creek, runs diagonally through both of these properties, and again, where it would be best to avoid this creek. McKay Creek is provides cold water habitat for salmonids, and so these are significant resources. UR3A, north of Cornelius and Forest Grove, there's a major confluence there. Actually, and I think it's Dairy Creek is the main tributary or stream that runs through there. McKay to the east, and Council Creek that runs in there, but that's a huge floodplain confluence area that should be avoided. And if Council Creek cannot totally be avoided in the urban designation, again, there should be additional protection applied beyond Title III and Title 13 to adequately protect Council Creek. South UR16, you can see UR16 is darn near 100% floodplain natural resource area. Looking at this, we can't really see a rationale for bringing that in and designating it urban reserve.
Or leaving it as undesignated, as Chairman Bryan mentioned.
We think it ought to be rural reserves. URF, it does look like there's some areas that could come in. Again, as the line is drawn there, there's a significant portion of the Tualatin River National Wildlife Refuge, and it's the confluence of Dairy Creek as it comes into the Tualatin River, huge floodplain area there. And again, where there's areas there where a line could be drawn and bring some of those areas in, Dairy Creek needs to be protected because this is the channel that opens up just miles of aquatic habitat. URG, less conflict, but there still are some significant streams there. Butternut Creek was mentioned as a possible boundary, and I think we would go along with that. let's see, UR6, Cooper Mountain, UR6 and URH. Again, you can see headwater streams there take up a good portion of both UR6 and even more so in URH, those areas where they can be avoided, should be avoided. Brian, if
Thank you very much. Now, that was TRK, 5 minutes.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah.
Well, you can see the remainder of the maps for you.
I
But
do want to compliment you and thank you because you have some very clear written recommendations and observations as well as the maps, which will help our, as you mentioned in page 2, applying a finer lens. So appreciate that very much.
One question.
we're happy
Yes.
to work with you on that.
I have one question, and this is an easy call for me. Tell me, is it better to be in the urban reserve area or outside for protection of the land?
It's better to be designated rural reserve for protection of the land, as you all have taken a watershed approach to the Tualatin Basin. There are other tools that can be applied in the rural areas once you start
You
paving.
had me when you told me what to do. I just because I want to preserve the area. I just didn't know whether. To me, you know all the arguments. Is it better in or out for preservation? And so, if you believe it is, that's fine.
Great. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I recognize you have a lot of information that you could provide, and we will work with you as we proceed the next 30 days.
Thanks.
All right.